The Sims 4 is a kind of game that you obsess over for a couple of days and then you get bored of it immediately, and then you don't play it again for weeks, even months, even years before picking it back up again, and it's this weird endless cycle. And the reason why is because I just think The Sims 4 is a little bit boring. Today I'm triggering all of the chronically online simmers and talking about why I think The Sims 4 is a little bit boring and the reason why sometimes it can feel very boring. So you want to start a new game. When you click on new game, what happens? You don't start a new game at all. You're met by a silhouette of a blank human being. 99.99% of the time you click no thanks, and you have to create a brand new character, and it's going to take you a couple of hours. And then once you've made the character, you go into the world, you click on Streamlit Single or Daisy Hovel, as we all do every single time that we play. Because you live in the same start home every time, you give your Sims the same life, do the same thing over and over again, and it's boring. When you open up any other Sims game, The Sims 1, 2 or 3, you're immediately meted by the world map, not by a create a sim screen. And from here, you can actually interact with the map in The Sims 2. The Sims 4 technically doesn't even have a world map screen, but you can click on a different household and you can see the great thing is that these bios, they're actually meaningful. The different households have different bios about them and they actually reflect their personality in the gameplay. You don't just have to create a brand new character each time. You can do, but you can jump straight into a pre-made character with their pre-existing storylines. You're immediately met by a pop-up describing something that could be happening with this character's life. The character's got different kinds of wants and fears. They've already got different kinds of relationships. They've already got certain skills and a job. It feels like you're jumping straight into a character and their storyline. But in The Sims 4, we don't really have any of that. There's no incentive to pick up the townies in the game. The townies don't really have any stories, and I think that's a major contribution to it being boring. The second problem is the big empty neighborhoods. Now, in the OG Sims neighborhoods, like in Willow Creek, they're actually very, very small. Even this road over here, you can't actually go over here. Just this street with 5 houses. This is all it really is. You can't leave this tiny little street. You can go as far as this little tree here, and you can do a bit of fishing over here. But the actual interactable area, it's very, very small, which sounds like a bad thing, but based on the fact that The Sims 4 performs terribly, obviously it needs a closed world system, which is why we have very limited areas with only maybe a small little garden and some trees and not actually that much going on. Obviously, having a closed world where absolutely nothing is going on in itself is very, very boring. But what makes it even more boring, not just focusing on the closed world system, is the fact that in more recent packs, they're trying to make it look open world when it's not, which further exemplifies the problems. The latest world of Tomarang is a great example of this. There are only 4 lots in this entire upper area. Despite only 4 lots, look at how huge the interactable area is of this map. It really is massive. This is so big compared to, for example, Willow Creek, when the only interactable area was just one small road and a little gardening patch, whereas here you've got all of this stuff around here. This is, in my opinion, the Sims team's way of trying to turn The Sims 4 into an open world. But the problem with that is The Sims 4 is not designed for big open spaces like this in mind. It's only designed to have a tiny road as the small open space around a build, not a huge city area. And this is why when you go through the newer worlds like this, everything is very dead and empty. There's no kids on the playground equipment ever. You might see a lone person depressingly walk across the street, but that's about it. This supposed bustling market is absolutely dead and there's nobody here. The whole worlds feel dead. San Sequoia is another very, very good example of this. Heading over into this neighborhood here, as you can see, again, it's absolutely huge, but it's basically dead and there's nothing going on here. here. The Sims team are trying to turn The Sims 4 into an open world by giving us these big open spaces, but it's just not working. And again, going back to Oasis Springs, a base game world for comparison, in this area, it's just a road. The interactable area is one tiny road. You can barely interact with anything, and there's one small little playground park thingy, and there's not really anything else. And here it works. The emptiness works because it's so small, it just feels like it should be empty. I just feel like The Sims 4's attempts to make it seem open world when it's not is making it feel very Silent Hill, very post-apocalyptic, and just not very fun. I feel like it creates a sense of uneasiness. The third reason why The Sims 4 is boring is they have no personality, yet at the same time they have too much. Simmers have always complained that Sims only have 3 personality traits. I personally don't mind the fact that Sims only have 3. The thing that annoys me is the fact that these are so unimpactful. What they actually do is very inconsistent, and a lot of them don't make sense. A Child of the Islands, that doesn't really feel like a personality trait to me. It's also very disjointed that certain personality traits are locked behind certain packs. So if you want your Sim to be a nosy person, you must own the For Rent pack. So if I want to be nosy, I have to have a pack that's about owning an apartment and being a landlord. If I want to be a squeamish person, then I have to, I forgot which pack this came with. I think it was Outdoor Retreat. I have to get a pack about camping if I want to be squeamish. And then you've got Loves Outdoors, which is not really a personality trait. That's more so just a preference that you like. Just like being a dance machine, something that you like, which is dancing. But then of course, we've got likes and dislikes, which also includes dancing. So I can have a character that, for example, dislikes dancing, but I can give them the dance machine personality trait. The Sims 3 actually had 5 personality traits, and they dropped down to 3 in The Sims 4 in order to reduce issues with conflicts with the different traits. Yet now they've actually made it more conflicting and more confusing. And then with the Growing Together pack to actually unlock the ability to earn brand new personality traits, which again makes it more confusing. And then we've got lifestyles, but in order to have this, you need to have the Snowy Escape pack. My Sim has a close-knit lifestyle, which means she prefers to form deep connections with a small circle of friends, and single and loving it, although it doesn't really feel that impactful. And then of course we've got milestones, which are basically just achievements. And then of course we've got relationship compatibility. It's all just a little bit too much, yet it doesn't really feel like it has an impact. Being brutally honest, guys, when has your Sims personality ever impacted your gameplay? Because for me it just hasn't ever, and I think it makes it more boring. The third problem is everything is just too safe. Despite the fact that The Sims 4 is typically enjoyed by older teens, young adults and older adults, and even a lot of elderly people, they seem to be marketing it a lot towards very young kids. Even though it's a teen plus game, the marketing to me comes across as very, very immature. And it's not just the marketing that feels very, very safe about The Sims 4 compared to previous Sims games, but even the chance of just anything a little bit naughty happening. All of the more fun adult themes of The Sims have been completely wiped out in The Sims 4 era, and The Sims 4 just often seems to hold your hand with a lot of "are you sure you want to do this" moments. It's like trying to burn your house on fire. The Sims 4 is the hardest game to do anything like that. In my Sims 4 For Rent Let's Play, I was trying so hard to kill my Sims with mold growth, and even though I turned on the mold lot challenge on, even though I deliberately made efforts to spread mold, even when I used cheats to spread mold, it was still very, very hard to kill my Sim of mold. It was only by using a lot of cheats that I was able to do it, because the game was trying so hard to keep everything so safe, and Simmers don't like that. I remember in The Sims 2 when your Sims could get left at the altar on the wedding wedding day and it would be an absolute disaster. But The Sims 4 would never let that happen. The Sims 4 doesn't let your Sims ever cheat on you. The Sims 4 doesn't really let you get fired from your job. It just holds your hand too much. And I think it makes it so boring. And that leads on to my fifth reason why The Sims 4 is a little bit boring, and that is playing pretend. The Sims has always been about creating your own stories and telling your own stories. And I felt like previous Sims games gave you the ability to do that in any kind of way that you wanted to. And it also, more importantly, allowed you to be a part of other people's stories. The problem with The Sims 4 is that firstly, it doesn't really let you be a part of other Sims 4 townies stories, notably because they don't have any. But secondly, I feel like it's more about pretending your Sim has a story rather than actually them having a story. I feel like a lot of us go into The Sims 4 thinking, I want to have a Sim or a household that lives this specific lifestyle and does this specific thing. You can't do it very easily. Normally you have to cheat in order to get your Sims to where you want to get them, which to me, I just feel like breaks a lot of immersion. To be able to tell certain stories requires very random and specific features from certain packs, all of which are totally a disjointed mess. And in general, I just feel like the game requires you to fill in a lot of gaps with your own imagination. And I just find it a little bit of a patronizing thing in their marketing when they always talk about creating your own story. What they're saying is our game is not good enough to tell stories, so you have to pretend a story is happening when it's not actually happening. For me personally, there's a very big difference between a life simulator game versus role-playing simulation like people do with GTA Online on Twitch streams. The Sims has always felt different to things like IMVU or different to things like Second Life, because traditionally it wasn't really about role-playing and pretending to play a role. In the past, to me, it always felt like you could actually do things with that character and actually create a story and tell a story and have a spanner thrown in the works and different things happening and stories taking unexpected turns. In The Sims 4, that doesn't really happen because it just requires you to pretend something is happening when it's not. And I feel like most people don't like that, and I think that's a big contributor to it being boring. The sixth reason, this is a little bit controversial. The sixth reason why I think it's boring is laziness and or disorganization. As we all know, The Sims 4 is a very, very buggy game. Ever since the latest pack release For Rent came out, it took a very long time for them to address some of the bugs. Emphasis on some of the bugs. A lot of them still haven't been addressed fully. We're still waiting for fixes on totally broken packs like The Sims 4 Die Now, which just doesn't work at all. Don't get me started on my wedding stories. That'll send me into a meltdown. There are countless different examples of Sims 4 packs which are broken, which have just been abandoned. And I can't help but feel like it's just laziness and or disorganization. We've got the lack of meaningful features. The Sims 4 Horse Ranch came with glitchy horses and it came with the ability to make wine, and that's basically it. And apparently that's a full immersive expansion pack. I don't think so. You only have to look back at Sims 3 packs to see how much difference there actually is in terms of passion and organization of the packs. I think some people are thinking I'm probably being a little bit bitchy calling this out, but yes, I am going to call it out. As a consumer, yes, I will be a Karen. Yes, I am disorganization and laziness phobic. If I'm a paying customer who's paying a lot of money for a product, then yes, I expect that product to work very well, especially if it costs over $1,000 in its entirety. I don't know about anybody else, but I do sense a lack of passion with The Sims 4 lately. In the past, the Sim gurus, as they call themselves, used to love speaking with Simmers on Twitter, whereas that seems to be dying down a lot now and happening a lot less. There seems to be a lot less interaction. Not just that, but The Sims always used to do so many events, like real life meetup events, very, very big events. But again, this just isn't really happening much anymore. They used to do The Sims Sparked challenges. There used to be a lot of community stuff, and that kind of stuff just isn't happening very much anymore. And I don't know how anyone else feels. I just get the impression the team doesn't really care about the game anymore, and it's reflecting in the quality of standard in the game. And if you don't care, then it makes the consumers not care. And I do think it contributes to it being a little bit boring. A controversial one, I know. You let me know what you think. The seventh reason is the disjointed features. How can we have so many different packs yet the game feels stale at the same time? It's because it's disjointed. A great example of this, I think, is the Dine Out pack. All of the bugs and glitches aside, I like the idea of having a pack which lets you run your own restaurant. I personally think it's a fun idea. I personally feel like Dine Out, the way they should have done it, is the pack should have come with a small world, potentially being a restaurant district with maybe just 3 lots, 4 lots, that's fine, with different pre-made restaurants in it. If you do get the Dine Out pack, if you start up a brand new save file, there are absolutely 0 restaurants in any worlds, meaning that the gameplay feels a little bit underused, like it requires too much effort. It's not plug in and play. If you purchase the Sims 4 Island Living pack, unfortunately, it doesn't really come with a seaside restaurant, a beach restaurant, which would have been a really nice idea, because you can't have that because it belongs in the Dine Out pack. If you purchase the Sims 2 pack, like the Sims 2 Bon Voyage, that was a pack about going on vacation, and funnily enough, the Hot Sunny World came with a nice little restaurant and it wasn't locked behind a restaurant pack. When you isolate features just like restaurants behind a certain pack, it makes it harder to actually enjoy other packs, because you can't really enjoy them to their full capacity because the features of them are so spread apart. It's really difficult to combine them together to create a whole, which is why I feel like a lot of Simmers say, even though I bought all these packs, I'm still bored. And for reference, in The Sims 3, if you purchase a pack with a special lot type, whenever you start a brand new game, every single world will auto-populate with lots corresponding to that pack. So if you purchase The Sims 3 Ambitions, this comes with live careers, which means it came with a firehouse for being a firefighter. It came with stylist lots if you wanted to work as a hairstylist or a makeup stylist, whatever. And all of these corresponding lots would actually auto-populate, not just in the base game worlds, but in other worlds from other packs too. If you own the Sims 3 Supernatural pack, that came with the world called Moonlight Falls. If you also owned Ambitions, Moonlight Falls would auto-populate with a firehouse. So if you wanted a sim that was a vampire, but they also worked as a firefighter, these packs intertwined. And that just doesn't really happen with The Sims 4, based on the fact that we don't actually have worlds. We have little pieces of set dressing which kind of look like worlds. And because of the way they're designed, they can't really be auto-populated with other lots. And I just feel like the disjointedness makes it hard to enjoy all the features in a way that's fun and makes it boring. Reason number 8 is over-complexity and a lack of complexity at the same time. I've already spoken about how personality traits can be very complex yet very simple and boring at the exact same time. I've also mentioned how things like milestones can be very complex and boring at the same time, or lifestyles. The Sims 4 has a lot of complex features. Most of them are actually in this panel here, the Simology panel. We have the reputation system that comes in Get Famous. We have neighborhood action plans. We have likes and dislikes. We have milestones. We have a million different traits. It's very confusing. The problem with a lot of these features is that most of us just skip these features. Being brutally honest, if you own the Sims 4 Eco Lifestyle, when have you ever actually bothered to use the neighborhood action plans? Most of us don't bother. Even just in the base game, we have something called enabling or disabling neighborhood stories. If you go into manage worlds instead of options, and you go into manage households, even though I have right now, I'm going to show you how confusing this is. Okay, under gameplay, I have neighborhood stories enabled, they're ticked. But if I go into manage households and click on this icon, it says that they're not enabled. And then you have to configure which parts of neighborhood stories you want to enable. And let's be honest, if you enable it, it causes absolute carnage in the game. It just doesn't really make any sense. Even things like careers, shout out to the Sims Wiki. In the base game, we have the Tech Guru career, which goes into the esports gamer branch. But we also have the high school years video game streamer career, which is different, but the same thing. With the Get Famous pack, it's not an official career, but that pack also actually comes with live streaming, which is a way to make money. And then even in the base game as well, we've got the style influencer career. And again, the Get Famous pack also has a influencer career where you can be a style influencer. And then of course, we've got Simfluencer in high school years. Not just careers that are overly complex yet simple and weird at the same time. We've also got the smartphone. The Sims 4 smartphone is a nightmare. Tell me right now you understand what any of these icons mean. We always make, I swear to God, every time I want to find something on the Sims 4 phone, I make at least one mistake. I always click on the wrong icon at least once. We've got the social bunny, which comes in high school years, which is socializing via adding context and sending text messages. But then we've got the social menu, which is different because as well as social bunny, we also have Simpstagram, or checking your social media timeline, which is very different to checking the social bunny social media timeline. We've then got Trendy, which is an app that you can use to purchase certain clothing items, which is fine. And you can wear the little randomly awfully generated outfits that you've purchased, which may look absolutely horrendous. But then we've got shopping, and I don't understand why it's different from shopping. It's just like a different thing. So if you want to browse Trendy, it's a separate app. But if you want to browse the Plopsy app, it's not an app, it's under the shopping menu. It's very disjointed and it doesn't make any sense. Another thing that's disjointed is the tutorial system. We've got something called a guidance system. We've got a help center. We've got a pack guidance system. We've also got discovery quests. There's a lot of different tutorials in this game. Ironically, you probably need a tutorial in order to understand what the different tutorials do. Which is just ridiculous. The Sims 4 is so complex with a lot of different features which kind of do the same thing but different things at the same time, and they're all implemented in different ways. And I think as a result, most of us just don't use the majority of features that come with packs because just of the way that they were implemented just doesn't make any sense, and it's all a bit of a mess. And I think that's why most of us don't use the features that the packs come with, contributing to it being boring. Number 9 is the feeling of thinking, what's next? What I mean by that is whether that be consciously or subconsciously, Simmers are often thinking, what do I do with my Sim next? Okay, I got my Sim a job. What do I do now? The Sims 4 has wants and fears where they can want basic things like buying a chess table or watching a romantic TV show. But these are just short-term filler goals that don't really have much meaning. It's the same with a lot of the aspirations. A lot of them feel like short-term filler goals which don't really have any depth. For example, the romance serial romantic milestone, the first one is to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. In The Sims 2, the game would give you an indication of actually who your Sim wanted to be a boyfriend or girlfriend of. They would make it very clear who they wanted to be with, which could have included one person or multiple people. And then we have weird ones like collect prepped ingredients 5 times while inspired. That doesn't really feel like a lifetime goal to me. Lifetime goals in The Sims 4 are just kind of like short-term missions as opposed to lifelong goals, and they often feel very tutorially that hold your hand through the packs. Because as I said before, the fourth reason why the game is boring, everything's too safe and it holds your hand. This is very hand-holdy, and it doesn't really give me any indication of, okay, what do I do next with my Sim? What do I do next with their life? I know I'm going to prep ingredients 5 times. That sounds like a fun storyline to play. I guess this point does kind of tie in with a lot of my previous ones, but I just feel like the game gives you a general sense of, okay, what do I do next? I have no idea what I'm gonna do next. There's a million things I could do, but a lot of them don't make sense and I don't know why I'm doing them, so I may as well just do nothing. And the 10th reason is The Sims 4 has just outlived its lifespan. The Sims 4, even on its release, was a bad game. It was absolutely horrendous. The Sims 4 was literally outdated upon release because it was even worse than The Sims 3 was on release. Over the past 10 years, the game has got a little bit better and it's got a lot more features. Apart from build mode, I just don't feel like the game really has anything going for it. The fact that The Sims 2 and The Sims 3 had a lot better features than The Sims 4 does is absolutely insane. And despite just, they haven't really admitted defeat with The Sims 4, they just keep it going on and on and on, and they just don't want to admit defeat with the game, and it's just so bizarre to me. This game was never really meant to be released as it was, let alone last almost 10 years now. It's a very weird thing in the Sims development lifetime cycle for it to last this long. This is also the only Sims title which doesn't really come with any spin-off titles. We know the previous Sims games used to come with things like the Castaway spin-offs, the Busting Out spin-offs, the Herbs. Previous Sims games came with a lot of different spin-offs, yet in the Sims 4 era, we've got no spin-offs. What was once a huge, bustling, incredible franchise of many different main title games and spin-off games has been very much oversimplified to this one game, The Sims 4. And the fact that it's outlived its lifespan just makes me feel like it's a dead horse, a beaten dead horse, whatever that saying is. I can't wait to see all of the chronically online virtue signaling holier than Jesus Christ Simmers telling me about how I'm a racist, sexist, transphobic Nazi because I said The Sims 4 is boring. Yes, I know what you're like, you trolls. The 2% of people who hate me yet they watch my videos all the time anyway. I can't wait to see your little Reddit post about how much you hate me because I said the game is boring. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one.